Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the DBE Edge training webinar. My name is Mike Fitch with the Ohio LTAP Center here at ODOT, and we appreciate your participation. As we get started, please take a moment to locate the questions box in the GoToWebinar panel. During the presentation today, please use the questions box to send in any questions you might have. With that, we will go ahead and turn things over to Jolita Stoltz. Hello.
Thank you, Mike. Hi, everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your day today to join us for this training on our updates for the DBE and EDGE Development Goal Training. As Mike said, I am Jolita Stoltz. I am the Southwest Ohio Outreach Manager for the Ohio Department of Transportation. I cover Districts 7, 8, and 9, and I will be doing your presentation today. All right, so we just wanted to start off with some information about our division, just in case you're not familiar. I work under the Division of Opportunity, Diversity, and Inclusion, and we kind of have taken the lead on updating the Development Goal Program. Under the division is the Office of Business and Economic Opportunity, led by Deborah Green. That office houses all of the DBE certification, the small business certification. They do the reporting, supportive services, on-the-job training, and ADA is under that office as well. There's also the Office of Contractor Compliance, which is led by Katie LaPlace. Contractor compliance is basically the people who ensure that our DBE firms are paid correctly, that everything's going good on the job site. They monitor commercially useful function, they monitor certified payroll and Title VI. And then lastly is the Office of Outreach, which is where my position lies. We are essentially a statewide, regional, and district DBE, SBE, MBE EDGE resource. We are here to help any small business who wants to learn more about doing work with ODOT or those who want to get certified. This is a copy of our outreach map so that you can see how the state is split up. As you see, I'm down here in the corner with District 7, 8, and 9. We also have 2 other outreach managers. Typically we have 3, but we do currently have a vacancy in Northeast Ohio. We have Lisa Washington, she covers District 1, 2, and 3. And then Lynn Stevens is our Central and Southeast Ohio Outreach Manager covering 5, 6, and 10. But in the interim, she is also considered the Northeast Outreach Manager. We're all trying to work together to cover that region until we're able to fill that position. And it's important to note that as ODOT staff, if you are involved in the DBE EDGE Development Goal program or project, that we are your contact at the district level to help you with any questions that you may have or any issues that come up. And at the end of the presentation, I will share our contact information. So I just wanted to start with a little background on the Development Goal Program. This program was actually created back in 2015. In 2015, a couple of ODOT staff, a group of them went around the state meeting with DBE firms and EDGE firms just to find out their views on doing business with ODOT, where they face difficulties and where there's room for improvement. After the town halls, they created a small business committee, and that was specifically for the consultant service industry. And that committee created the idea of the Development Goal Program. The first Development Goal project was actually in September of 2015. And since then, we've had 70-ish projects that have had a development goal. Since it's been several years that the program has started, we really wanted to look at the program and determine if it was running as well as it could, if there were any changes that we can make to strengthen the program and ensure that we're getting what the desired outcomes of the program are. We wanted to hold this training today to ensure that ODOT staff understands the program and so that we can have consistency and understanding across the districts. You may find that you have consultants asking you questions, so we want to make sure that you're informed. And of course, we have some changes as well that may impact your role in development goal monitoring. We are holding trainings for the industry. Those are starting next week. We have 2 of them scheduled where we will be informing everyone on the updates. I believe the manual with the updates has been published at this point. And we do anticipate and we are on track for the changes to take place with the September programmatic. When we did the review of the program, we analyzed data from all the awarded projects. We talked among ourselves. We had, notes that we had taken of different deficiencies that we have saw in the program. And we also put out a survey to prime and DBE and EDGE certified firms that have actually participated in the program. So we got contacts for every single project, and they were the ones that were surveyed. We really found 5 areas that we needed to look at out of the review of the program. There was the issue of overutilization of the same DBE and EDGE firms on projects. We looked at the development goal criteria and the methodology for scoring. It was noted that we were not receiving consistent reporting and there was no consistent way to report. We also got questions about the funding that's associated to the development goal and if certain types of projects were appropriate. So the first step to this was creating a small working group that was part of this updated small business committee, and together we talked and we determined that both growing established firms and allowing opportunities for new firms are valuable goals of the program. We do want to, of course, stop overutilization of DBE and EDGE firms, and we found the best way to do that is to kind of expand what our language looks like in our scoring. We are creating an FAQ document and, of course, using these trainings to help encourage the utilization of new firms. One way to help with overutilization of DBE firms is by using the reporting. By tracking, we'll be ensuring that firms are actually making progress and not duplicating training on information that they're proficient with. So if a company is on several projects, but they're growing from that, that is a desired outcome. If they're simply being used on projects to meet the development goal, but they don't actually benefit from the training, then we will be able to catch that and score them appropriately. We did not make any changes to the actual score amount. It is still, the write-up is still worth 5 points, and the consultant still has to include a 1-page description describing the expected outcomes of the efforts of the consultant and the sub-consultant to help them achieve the goals of eventual self-sufficiency included in the letter of interest. And they still receive that 1 additional page to include that information. Prior to this update, this was the criteria that we scored prime consultants on. We asked that they show that they're improving the certified firm's long-term development, increasing their ability to participate in a variety kind of work, including pre-qualification in new categories, and handle increasingly significant projects, developing their capability to utilize emerging technology and conduct business through electronic media, and finally, achieving self-sufficiency. We decided that we would remove self-sufficiency from the scoring criteria and note it as the overarching goal of the program, because the true goal of the development goal program is to help enter firms into the marketplace, grow them, and hopefully eventually allow certified firms to not need to rely on their certification to find projects as a sub and a prime consultant. The other three categories we did keep, but we did define the criteria with examples in some cases, and we also did change the scoring to make it match the level of effort that we thought was necessary, and I'll get into that in just a second. This is our updated language. So now we say the description should clearly address each of the following topics: improving long-term development, and we added by providing exposure and training to the firm in areas that will assist them in being better able to compete as a sub or prime consultant. This may include trainings on ODOT processes and procedures or improving internal business practices. I think it's important to note that sometimes the development that we're seeing may not be directly tied to a project, and that is okay. We did get feedback that some of the best development they've received has actually been on their business practices. A prime has a lot more resources than a DBE or edge firm, so they have a lot that they can learn from their back office, their accounting, their marketing, and things of that nature. So if those are included in improving long-term development, they are acceptable. The second category we left the same. It's pretty self-explanatory, pre-qualification or ability to handle more significant projects. And then for the last category, it's developing capability to utilize emerging technology, and we added, which may include navigating ODOT allocated software or industry recognized software, along with conducting business through electronic media. So as I mentioned, we did change the scoring methodology just slightly. The biggest change is that we are requiring for 5 points or 4 points that we can see measurable improvement. So for 5 points, we're now asking that the expected outcome and plan for achieving them will provide an opportunity for the DBE or edge firm to significantly improve in all three objectives. And I'll talk about what we mean by that in a minute. But we also ask for a 5 that improvement be measurable in at least 2 of the 3 objectives and clearly defined in the LOI. So this is a brand new requirement to the consultant industry. For 4 points, we still want to see the DBE or edge firm significantly improve in all 3 objectives that are listed, but improvement has to be measurable and clearly defined in the LOI for at least 1 objective. The scoring for 3 points, 2 points, and 1 point stayed the same. Essentially, to get 3 points, they need to show the firm will significantly improve in at least 2 objectives. For 2 points, they need to significantly improve in 1 of the objectives. And for 1 point, essentially, there was not any room for improvement, and they provided the certified firm a workload. We had some questions whenever we presented this to the Small Business Committee on if we could define what we mean by significant improvement and measurable, and we really can't put together a formal definition for significant improvement. What does it mean? It means that improvement will have an impact on the firm's ability to grow and succeed as a business. An example would be that, or I guess a firm significant improvement would be that the DBE or edge firm can complete a consultant process with oversight from the prime, which will allow them to repeat the process independently. What's not significant? Obviously, not impactful on the firm's growth or success, or they've only learned an insignificant skill. What's really important to point out, and one of the reasons we really can't define this, is what's considered significant for a new firm may not be considered significant for an experienced firm. In some cases, a more experienced firm, perhaps they already have training on using a software and they're just going to get a little bit additional training. That's not really significant. But for a new firm, that could have a significant impact. And I'm going to talk about through a few examples now. So what are some things that we've seen that we would consider significant? Providing guidance to lead the development of a firm's familiarity or use of scoping and fee development on the SAFE system, ODOT invoicing forms, ELA system, SharePoint. It could be project management skills, including project scheduling, the plan development process, showing progress and increase proficiency with the utilization of ODOT's TIM system, the Transportation Information Mapping System, Open Road Designer per the latest standards created by ODOT's CAD Mapping Division, MicroStation, and it could also be, as I mentioned before, back office assistance, accounting systems, HR systems, payroll systems. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about measurable. We are going to consider it measurable if it's quantitative or qualitative, but it does need to be significant. But the main important point is that the LOI has to include specifics on how we as ODOT will be able to review and determine successful completion of the goals. So it's up to the prime and the certified firm to tell us how we will be able to measure success. I put some examples on here for each of the category. So examples for improving long-term development could be that the certified firm is being mentored on how to write successful letters of interest. And to measure that, the firm will submit at least one, it could be two, it could be three letters of interest in a future programmatic within a year. That's something that we can measure. If the firm is being mentored on marketing their company to ODOT, to measure success, the firm will have developed proper marketing materials and scheduled and carried out meet and greets with 3 district offices by the end of the project. Feedback will be obtained from the district staff, documented and implemented for future marketing. That would be another example for improving long-term development that's measurable. Some examples for pre-qualification or the ability to handle increasingly significant projects. The most straightforward one is the firm will apply or have received pre-qualification by the end of the project. But we also are well aware that one project sometimes is not enough for a company to receive pre-qualification. So another example would be that the firm will not be ready to apply for pre-qualification, but during the life of the project, they'll obtain experience designing 2 single-span concrete slab bridges, which will count toward the 3 needed for pre-qualification. Another example of a unique way to assist a firm handling increasingly significant projects would be that the DBE or EDGE firm has never held a task order contract. So they come into the project as a prime and bring in a company under them to develop them as a sub, but that sub or prime consultant that's being a sub, I know that sounds confusing, but majority owned company, let's just put it that way. The majority owned company mentors and advises the certified firm throughout the life of the task order, and the DBE EDGE firm successfully completes the project management aspects by project end, of course, getting feedback from the district along the way. And some examples for developing their capability to utilize emerging technology. For example, it's stated that a member of the DBE or EDGE firm will train another staff member on a software with minimal oversight from the prime consultant after receiving their initial training, which will be documented in the final development goal report. This is a good example of both significant and measurable, because if the prime trains one staff member, and that staff member can then provide the training to the rest of the company, then that's a skill that they've acquired for the long term that if one employee leaves, they won't take with them. The staff affirms that they feel proficient in the software. That's kind of more of a qualitative approach, and that no additional training would be needed. So those are just some examples. Of course, there may be others. Another topic of note was project selection. It was brought up, do we consider task orders a good candidate for development goals? And what we determined was general engineering service task orders will not be considered for development goals. They're just way too general to be able to create a good development plan and be able to carry it out because there's too much unknown. However, specialized task orders will still be considered for development goals, such as your environmental task orders, because even though we may not know the task, we know the general, we know that it's going to be environmental, and a newer company could, I think, achieve significant improvement by being on one of those task orders and learning. We also will not be looking at construction inspection projects. We want to encourage that prime consultants utilize the ODOT intern program to train inspectors. But on the few projects that we've had a development goal for construction inspection, the funds have primarily been used to train inspectors, and that's semi out of the intent of the program because it's to develop a firm, and the cost to train an inspector over exceeds the amount of funds anyway. Of course, out of the survey, we had some feedback on the funds that are allocated to the prime for their time spent training and assisting. We did not make any changes. So if there's a fee for agreement that's less than $150,000, the fee that they'll receive for training and assistance is $7,500. For those that are $150,000 to $300,000, it will be 5% of the total estimated fee. And projects that are greater than $300,000, it will be $15,000. We will be reevaluating this once more data is collected, and we will be collecting that data through some of our new reporting. But for now, we really couldn't make a decision on whether or not it should be increased or not based on at the end of some projects, we've been told that the level of effort has over exceeded the amount of money. And then on other projects, we've had special requests for usage of the money because there's plenty left over and the project's about to end. One of the major changes to the program outside of the scoring is the new reporting. And I'm going to kind of go through that workflow now and show you some of the templates as I go. I mentioned earlier that district staff may be a little bit more involved in the process. The goal is for the regional outreach manager and the district staff to work together to monitor progress. Most of this is going to fall on the regional outreach manager, but it's vital that we have collaboration in order to accurately monitor the project. So kind of the start of all of this is the scope meeting. The outreach manager in the district will provide during that meeting an overview of all the requirements for the development goal. We have created a new initial development goal report that is going to be due before the contract is signed, and it will be included as part of the contract document. Once we get that in, both the outreach manager and the district staff should review the fee proposal and the description on the initial plan to ensure that the funds are being spent accurately and that their development plan looks good. I've included some screenshots of the report to show you. These will eventually be posted on the website. But this is page 1 of the initial mentoring plan. We're asking for the scope of work for the DBE or EDGE certified firm. This kind of helps us get all the information in one place for our records. We do want to know if the prime has worked with the sub previously and if the prime has developed a firm on a past project. And that will kind of let us know if we should look back and see what they've done on the last project and if they've made progress from there. We also are asking on page 1 if they're currently teaming with a company on another project, and if so, who is the project owner and will the work aid in pre-qualification attainment? So it's just some additional background information. The second page is where we're asking for how the funds are going to be spent. We're not super specific, and they're not necessarily held to the exact dollar, but generally how much money will be spent by the prime or the sub for the business development trainings, assistance with the pre-qualification application, training, and then other. We are including a place for special request. We are now requiring that if there are special requests for how the funds are going to be spent, that they do need to be requested up front. And we will not always approve that, but we will take it into consideration. The money really is there to help compensate the time spent above and beyond the project for the development of the firm, and it should not be utilized on software for the certified firm or outside trainings and things like that. But if somebody has a unique idea and it makes sense, then we could potentially approve that. For the last page, we have an anticipated development goal activity schedule. We're asking for each criteria what the activity will be and the general time frame, which will help us track through the life of the project to ensure that goals are being met all throughout. And it gives us a general idea on when to expect certain things and to help hold the prime and the sub accountable for making this happen. So there is a chart like this for the other as well. So that is the initial plan. Additionally, we're asking if there's a kickoff meeting planned between the prime and the sub, then a invitation or meeting minutes be shared with the outreach manager to give us a better understanding of what their starting point is. And next, we are requiring quarterly reporting from the start of the project, which includes both past activities and planned activities for the next quarter. These quarterly reports are going to be required on a set schedule starting January. So they'll be due the 10th day of each quarter. And that information is included on the reports, and the prime will be responsible for sending that to the outreach manager in the district and the project manager. As I did with the last report, I provided some screenshots to show what we're asking for on the quarterly report. So we'll ask for what billing period was within this time, what was invoiced for the billing cycle for the project, and if there are not any non-salary direct costs this billing cycle, and for them to explain, then that will alert us to any potential misuse of funds if it has not been approved. And then we have charts as we did before to find out the mentoring progress since the last, well, this needs updated, but since the last report for each of the different criterias. And if they haven't done any in that quarter, that's okay. They'll just need to note that on the quarterly report, but they still do need to submit it. We also ask on the second page what the anticipated development activities are within the next quarter. And we are asking if there are any concerns or issues at this time. Are there any outstanding invoices not paid to the DBE or EDGE firm? And if so, when those will be made and if there's a reason for a delay. On the last page, We ask if the certified firm reviewed the document and if they have any comments on either the progress or the program as a whole. That way we can get some input from the certified firm. And toward the bottom of the page, we have a section that asks if it's a final report. Instead of creating a separate report, we wanted to have one standard report. And when they click or they circle yes, that will alert us to know that the mentoring or the development is complete, that all the money has been spent and all the activities are done. Every quarter, the prime and the DBE consultant does need to sign off on this and date it. And of course, we ask for a summary of the accomplishments, including if pre-qualification was received. Each quarter, when we review these reports, if there are questions or issues that are brought up, the outreach manager will reach out to the prime and sub and have a meeting with them and try to resolve those, bring in the district staff if needed. And then we're asking, the project managers are already evaluating the prime's work during each stage submission. If possible, the district PM should also evaluate the work provided by the sub. And that way we know if there's any red flags or any issues that are happening with the sub, and we can resolve those early and work with them to see what improvements need to be made and even potentially modify their development plan. After the tracing submission, the outreach manager will meet with the certified firm and the prime for a final development goal report review. We are making sure that companies know that this review is not connected to their CES score. We are creating a template document for this final report review. There will be some standard questions that we ask and some customized based on the different goals within the project. This is essentially an interview. How did the project go? What was achieved? Did you fall short of any of your goals? And this will help us understand the development of the company. And we're trying to start looking at this more on a company by company basis rather than a project by project basis, so that we can ensure development is happening throughout the life of it, throughout the certification of a firm. The outreach manager will file all the quarterly reports in the final report in a centralized drive that anyone can have access to. And as I mentioned, ODI is working on a solution for long-term tracking of success by firm. So our ultimate goal is to have a place where once a company is on a development goal project, we compile all the information in that one space, regardless of how many projects that they're on, regardless of how often they get a project, so that we can ensure the program is working correctly. Just a couple other items to note. In our FAQ, we will be mentioning that the project approach should not be continued onto the development goal write-up page. I have seen that a few times where they've taken up half the page to continue their project approach and not given a level of detail to how they're going to develop the firm. Each scoring criteria category has to be addressed individually. That helps so much with the scoring, so that you don't have to guess what they're considering long-term development, what they're considering technology and things like that. And we are also putting it out there that it is highly encouraged a firm only developed one certified firm per project, because we know that that's how you're going to have the biggest impact on a firm. It's a little bit harder to split up $7,500 or $15,000 across multiple firms and see the same level of impact. This is the outreach manager's contact information. Like I said, we're going to be working closely with our districts on each project and ensuring that everything goes smoothly. We're here to help answer any questions that you may have at any point in time. Please use this as a resource. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over for questions. I know initially this was put out as a 90-minute training, and I knew it wouldn't take that long. So hopefully you guys will get quite a bit of time back today. But I would like to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Thanks, Julita, and the questions box is open. So we invite anyone to type in a question.
Yes, please. They may be ready though to end their day, so. While we're waiting to see if anyone has any questions, I did want to just mention briefly a new monthly update that the Division of Opportunity, Diversity, and Inclusion is doing. Each month, the first Wednesday of a month, we're going to put out a monthly update from the full division from each office. It will include things like workshops that we're holding, any changes in compliance or certification. It's a good way to keep informed on the diversity and inclusion efforts in the region that you're in. And you can sign up for that on our outreach page, which is located at the link. And I know the slides are available in PDF form in the handout section. So I would definitely encourage anyone to sign up for that just to keep up to date on what's happening. And additionally, there is a new update for the goals on projects for construction that you may find interesting as well. Any questions, Mike?
We do not have any questions at this time. So, Julita, can people email questions to you if they have those also?
Absolutely. If you have a chance to review the information or something comes up later, I'm happy to answer any questions. If you had project managers who could not attend today and you think that they need somebody to talk over this with them, I'm happy to do that as well.
All right. Well, thanks so much. And thanks everyone for your participation today. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Mike.
Yep. Thanks.